Welcome to the Alcohol Reset, the podcast that helps you reset your habits, health, and relationship with alcohol without judgment or extremes. If you're looking to cut back, take a break, or just understand how drinking can affect your body and mind, you're in the right place. Each episode brings you science-backed insights on neuroscience, nutrition, and habit change to help you feel better, sleep deeper, and take control on your terms. I'm Mike Hardenbrook, best-selling author, neuroscience enthusiast, and habit change expert. I've helped thousands through my book and podcast to rethink their drinking, and now I'm here to help you do the same. Let's get started. Hi everyone, Mike Hardenbrook here, welcome back. Okay, so we've all seen it, right? Maybe even been there, watching someone. You're out, things are fine, pretty relaxed maybe, and then, a couple drinks in, the whole vibe just shifts dramatically. Someone who was laughing a minute ago is suddenly, prickly. Sometimes just plain angry. Now it's easy to just say, oh, they're in a bad mood or, bad night. But that sudden flip, that classic angry drunk thing, it's not random at all. There's actually some really specific chemistry and biology going on under the hood. So today, that's what we're diving into. We're going to unpack the science of this. We'll look at the brain mechanisms, why alcohol makes some people aggressive but not others, and look, this really matters. This isn't just about awkward moments. The research is pretty clear. Alcohol-related aggression is linked to something like nearly 40% of violent crimes worldwide. That's huge. So the goal here, our mission, is to get the shortcut to understanding who gets affected and, crucially, why. Because understanding the why helps us move past just relying on willpower and towards, smarter preparation. All right, let's look inside the brain first. What's happening up there? The main thing, the sort of core mechanism kicking it all off, is how alcohol suppresses the prefrontal cortex. Now, this part of your brain, it's like the CEO. It runs the show. It handles your impulse control, your self-regulation, thinking before you act, weighing consequences. When alcohol comes into the picture, it just dampens the activity in this really critical area. Think of it like this. Your prefrontal cortex is the set of really good brakes on your emotional car. Alcohol doesn't necessarily put the anger in the car, that frustration. It might already be there, maybe from a tough week, some small annoyance, maybe you're just tired. What the alcohol does is essentially cuts the brake lines. So when some little irritation happens, someone spills a drink, talks too loud, wherever that raw feeling, it just takes the wheel. Instantly, the filter's down. The part that thinks about consequences, basically offline. But okay, it's actually more complex than just losing your filter. Alcohol also messes with the balance of key brain chemicals, neurotransmitters, like dopamine and serotonin. And this is where things can really escalate for some people. For certain individuals, this chemical imbalance acts almost like a threat amplifier. Picture this. Crowded a bar, someone bumps into you, normally. Annoying, maybe, but you brush it off. Accident. But with your brain chemistry tweaked by alcohol, that bump doesn't get processed as an accident. You might feel like a deliberate push, an aggressive act. An insult. That tiny contact suddenly feels like a massive threat. And that misinterpretation, seeing hostility where there isn't any, that's what leads to those out of proportion explosive reactions we sometimes see. And if that wasn't enough, there's the stress hormone factor too. When you drink, your body kind of sees alcohol as a toxin, something it needs to deal with. This can actually spike your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, the fight or flight stuff. So if you're someone who's already a bit prone to stress, or maybe your run's a little hot, baseline-wise, you add this stress hormone spike on top of the weakened impulse control, that's a recipe for conflict right there. What's really interesting, though, is that this isn't everybody. Not everyone reacts this way. And that really comes down to our individual wiring. Studies show that people with, say, a history of trauma, or maybe just higher baseline levels of aggression, or even certain genetic markers, they seem to be more predisposed biologically to this kind of reaction. For these folks, alcohol isn't just a drink. It's like a chemical key unlocking pre-existing sensitivities in their emotional control system. It's pushing open a door that was maybe already slightly ajar, Okay, so that's the internal chemistry. But the situation, the environment, that stuff matters just as much. Let's talk about those external fuses, things that can make it worse. First off, how fast you drink and what you drink. That makes a big difference. Ever notice how shots, hard liquor, seem to hit harder and faster emotionally than, say, slowly sipping a beer? There's a reason. That fast-acting alcohol floods the brain really quickly. It overwhelms that already weakened impulse control system all at once. The brain just doesn't get time to adjust. Then there's this thing called a congener factor. Heard of congeners. If you tend to drink darker liquors like whiskey, brandy, even some dark red wines, you're getting more of these. They're basically byproducts from fermentation. chemical impurities, essentially. And research links these congeners pretty strongly to worse moods, nastier hangovers, and just generally rougher emotional rides. Why? Well, your body has to work harder to break down those extra compounds. It puts more stress on your system. And a stressed body plus an impaired brain. Yeah, that's asking for emotional volatility. Beyond the drink itself, context is huge. You got to ask why you're drinking and where you're drinking. Think about crowded places or maybe really competitive settings, like a packed bar during a big game. These environments are almost designed to increase friction, right? If you're already feeling a bit stressed or uncomfortable physically and your brain's brakes are iffy, well, a little nudge or a loud comment is way more likely to spark hostility than if you're chilling somewhere quiet. And what emotional state are you bringing into it? This is key. If you're drinking mainly to cope with stress, I need a drink to unwind and drown my sorrows, you're basically starting from a vulnerable place. It's like pouring a stress chemical alcohol onto an already existing emotional sensitivity. It makes those outbursts far more likely. And finally, don't forget group dynamics. We're social animals. We tend to sort of mirror the energy around us. If you're with a group that's already loud, maybe a bit aggressive, rowdy, it's much easier to get swept up in that and match that energy, even if you would normally. It feeds itself. Okay, so understanding all this as the brain chemistry, the hormones, the environment, it actually gives us quite a bit of power. We can stop just, hoping things go okay and start using smarter habits, maybe even some targeted support. The first step really is just awareness, a mindful approach. If you see this pattern in yourself, or maybe someone you know, start by identifying the personal triggers. Is it specific places, certain people, particular stress levels? Know your weak spots when alcohol is involved. That's your best preparation tool, seriously. Then the behavioral stuff. This is foundational. Pacing your drinks. Non-negotiable, really. Slowing down gives your brain a fighting chance. It reduces those sudden chemical spikes, lets the prefrontal cortex try to keep up. And always buffer your system with food and water. Eating stabilizes blood sugar. Hydration helps your body process the alcohol without extra stress. It smooths out the mood swings. But let's take it a step further. Let's talk brain support. Actual nutritional science. Because remember, alcohol actively depletes nutrients the brain needs for control. So replacing what gets lost, that's critical for keeping things stable. One of the big ones alcohol hampers is thiamine, vitamin B1. Your brain absolutely needs B1 for energy and critically for impulse control. When your B1 levels drop, which they do with drinking, irritability goes way up, rational thinking goes down. That feeds directly into that angry drunk profile. The research often points to easily absorbed forms, like benfotiamine, to help counteract this specific deficiency. Another angle is managing the overall stress load before you even have a drink. Some research highlights compounds like ashwagandha. It's an adaptogen. Basically, it helps your body handle stress better, helps keep cortisol levels more managed by calming down your baseline nervous system response. It means even if alcohol weakens your brakes a bit, you're not starting from this super stressed hair trigger state. It kind of lengthens the fuse, if that makes sense. So let's wrap this up. The main takeaway here, the core idea. Alcohol doesn't just magically create anger out of thin air. It acts like a catalyst. It exploits vulnerabilities that are already there, maybe genetic, maybe stress-related, psychological. And it does this by messing with the brain's control systems, making reactions faster and louder. But the really empowering part, this is manageable, it's controllable. It's less about willpower failure and much more about understanding the chemistry. Managing your environment, your internal state, maybe using targeted support. So I want to leave you with a final thought for this week, something to chew on. If you recognize that pattern where alcohol weakens the emotional brakes and aggression comes out, ask yourself, what's the underlying stress? What's the issue that the alcohol was bringing so quickly to the surface? Because maybe the real solution isn't just about counting drinks. Maybe it's about managing that underlying emotional landscape, that chemical preparation that alcohol is so good at exposing. Address that foundation first. That might be the key to keeping that fuse from ever getting lit. All right, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you got something out of this, do me a quick favor, leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It helps keep the show going and would mean the world to me. Got ideas, comments, or questions? Shoot me an email at mike@trycloud9.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for extra support, check out Cloud9, makers of Daily Restore, a once-a-day supplement to support your body from alcohol's effects, and Rise and Unwind AM/PM, a 24-hour combo to curb cravings, balance mood, and improve sleep when taking a break. Go to trycloud9.com and use the code PODCAST to save 15% on your next order. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.